stand before you and share something deeply personal, something spiritual, something that changed the entire course of my life. There was a time, not long ago, when I was buried beneath a pile of rejection emails, unanswered applications, and interviews that went nowhere. I was applying everywhere to every opportunity that even remotely matched my skills or my dreams. My days started with searching, clicking, writing cover letters, sending resumes, and hoping. My nights ended in silence, in doubt, wondering what I was doing wrong. Was I not qualified enough? Was my timing off? Was the world just too competitive? I felt like I was drowning in a sea of ambition, paddling hard, but never reaching the shore. And I prayed. Not just a little, not just once. I prayed hard. I cried. I got on my knees and begged God to open a door, any door. I asked him to make it clear, to show me the way. But for a long time, there was only silence, no signs, no clear path, just more closed doors, more confusion. Then, one day, in the quiet of my spirit, I heard something. Not an audible voice, not something thunderous or dramatic, but a feeling so strong, so certain it couldn't be ignored. It felt like God was saying, "Stop applying. I've already chosen the job for you." At first, I didn't understand. How could I stop applying? Wasn't it my responsibility to make something happen? Didn't I have to work for it, fight for it? How could I just wait? That went against everything I was taught. We're told to hustle, to grind, to never stop chasing what we want. But God was telling me something different, something deeper. He was reminding me that faith isn't just about believing He exists. Faith is about trusting that His plan is better than mine. It wasn't easy to let go. It wasn't easy to stop sending out resumes, to stop refreshing job boards every hour, but I did. I took a step back, and I started to focus on listening instead of scrambling. I started to prepare myself spiritually and emotionally, not just professionally. I started asking different questions, not where should I work, but who do you want me to become? Not what job pays the most, but what calling brings you glory, and slowly the fog started to clear. You see, when God says, "I've already chosen the job for you," He's not just talking about employment. He's talking about purpose, about alignment, about divine timing. He sees the beginning and the end. He knows which path will grow us, challenge us, and mold us into who we were always meant to be. Sometimes the job He chooses doesn't come with a fancy title or a big paycheck. Sometimes it's a job that tests your patience, your integrity, or your resilience, but every time it's a job that draws you closer to Him. And that's exactly what happened to me. I ended up in a position I never applied for. In fact, it wasn't even on my radar. A conversation with someone I hadn't spoken to in years led to a phone call, which led to a meeting, which led to an opportunity that fit me perfectly, better than anything I had spent months chasing. It felt like a door had been built just for me, and when it opened, I didn't have to force it. I just walked through. That's when I truly understood what God meant. He had already prepared the way. All along, I thought I was being rejected, but in reality, He was redirecting me. He was shielding me from roles that would have distracted me, drained me, or derailed my growth. He was leading me towards something more meaningful, more fulfilling, more aligned with the person He was shaping me to be. And I know I'm not the only one who's gone through this. Some of you are in that exact place right now. You're tired. You're frustrated. You've been told no so many times, you've started to question your worth. Maybe you're watching your friends succeed while you feel stuck in limbo. And maybe, like I once did, you're wondering if God has forgotten about you. So let me reassure you, He hasn't, not for a second. When God says stop applying, He's not saying do nothing. He's inviting you to shift your focus from frantic effort to quiet preparation, from hustle to hearing, from fear to faith. He's reminding you that your identity is not in your job title. Your value is not in your LinkedIn profile. You are not a failed application. You are not your resume. You are a child of God called with a purpose that no rejection can cancel. It's okay to take a breath. It's okay to trust that what is meant for you will find you. And sometimes you don't need to chase the opportunity. Sometimes the opportunity will chase you because it's already written into your story. God is not limited by HR departments or algorithms or hiring managers. He can make a way out of nowhere. He can use unlikely people in unlikely places to open the door He's chosen for you. And when that door opens, you won't have to compete for it. You'll just walk in because it's already yours. But don't mistake waiting for wasting time. Use this season to grow. Learn what you can. Serve where you are. Build character. Build faith. Because when God finally places you in that role, you'll realize that everything you went through wasn't a delay, it was preparation. Every disappointment, every detour, every no was shaping you for a bigger yes. You might be in a job you don't like right now. Or maybe you're between jobs, feeling lost. Maybe you're doing work that feels small, unnoticed, unimportant. But let me tell you, if God puts you there, it's not small. It's not wasted. It matters. Be faithful where you are. Do your work with excellence. Serve with humility. Love the people around you, because how you handle this season determines how you'll handle the next. And for those who are still searching, still knocking, still waiting, I want to say this: don't give up. But don't just seek a job, seek God, seek His voice, seek His peace. Let Him lead you. Because when He says, I've already chosen the job for you, He means it. He's not scrambling to figure it out. He's already gone before you. He's already set the stage. He's just waiting for the right moment to reveal it. To trust the process. Trust the pauses. Trust the redirections. Even trust the silence. Because silence is not absence. Sometimes God is the loudest when He says nothing at all. It's in that stillness that He does His deepest work in us. I'll leave you with this. The world may measure your worth by what you do, but God measures it by who you are. And who you are is already enough. So take heart, be still, and know this. Your job, your purpose, your assignment, it's not something you have to fight for. It's something that's already been chosen. We live in a world that constantly tells us to do more, move faster, stay ahead, and never stop pushing. We're taught that our future is entirely in our hands, that success comes only to those who hustle the hardest, network the most, and never take a break. So when doors don't open or progress seems slow, our instinct is to panic. We think we're not trying hard enough. We double down. We apply for more jobs, write more emails, scroll endlessly through job boards at midnight, and compare our journey to everyone else's highlight reel. We live in this cycle of striving, assuming that if we just do a little more, something will finally work out. But sometimes God interrupts that cycle, not with a booming voice or a burning bush, but with a quiet tug in your spirit, a moment of stillness that says stop, not because He's punishing you, not because you've done anything wrong, but because He wants to show you something different. He wants you to understand that your destiny is not only shaped by your effort, but by His divine timing. When God says stop applying, He's not saying you don't need to care about your life or future. He's not telling you to sit idly and wait for things to fall from the sky. What He is saying is this: I already see where you're going. I already know what's best for you. I've already prepared the place. You don't have to run yourself ragged trying to force things to happen before they're meant to. He's inviting you to trust that while you may not see movement, He's still working. While you're waiting in silence, He's putting things in order. While you feel like you're behind, He's aligning people, places, and opportunities to match what He has in store for you. That kind of trust doesn't come naturally, especially when all we've been taught is that if you stop moving, you fall behind. It takes courage to pause. It takes faith to rest, because resting in God doesn't mean you're being lazy. It means you're being obedient. It means you recognize that your worth isn't measured by how much you do, but by who you are and whose you are. Some of the most powerful moments in our lives come when we stop striving and start listening, when we stop chasing what looks good and start waiting for what's truly right, when we finally admit, God, I don't have the answers and I can't keep doing this alone. That's when something shifts. That's when peace begins to settle in places where anxiety used to live. That's when clarity begins to rise above the noise. That's when we begin to understand that we don't have to chase what's already ours. Divine timing means trusting that even if it doesn't happen today, it doesn't mean it will never happen. It means knowing that delays aren't denials. It means understanding that every not yet carries the weight of preparation, either preparing you or preparing the place where you're meant to be. You might feel like you're standing still, but in God's plan, even your waiting is movement. Even your pauses have purpose. The truth is, when we stop trying to take control of everything, we give God space to move. When we release the pressure we put on ourselves to figure everything out, we open our hearts to something better than we could have ever imagined. And often it's in that surrender that the right opportunity finds us, not because we chased it, but because we were aligned with it. So if you're in a season where nothing seems to be happening, where the doors keep closing, where the silence feels loud and the waiting feels endless, don't give in to the fear that you've failed. Don't let the world convince you that your stillness is weakness. Instead, lean in, take a breath, and remember, God is not late. He's not overlooking you. He hasn't forgotten what he promised. His timing is perfect. He's already working behind the scenes, lining up the job, the people, the resources, and the lessons you'll need when you step into what he's already chosen for you. All he asks is that you let go of the frantic effort, that you rest in the knowledge that he's God and you're not, that you let him lead. Because when the time is right, nothing and no one will be able to stop what he has set in motion for your life. It's hard not to take it personal when you're told no, when you've poured your heart into an application, prepared endlessly for an interview, or waited for that one call that never came. Rejection can sting deeply. It feels like a statement on your worth, your ability, or your potential. Each closed door can feel like a silent judgment, whispering that maybe you're not good enough. Maybe you're falling behind, or maybe you're simply not destined for the kind of life you dreamed about. It's painful, it's frustrating, it makes you question everything, your skills, your choices, even your faith. But what if the closed doors you're facing aren't meant to crush you? What if they're not rejections, but redirections? What if those silences aren't signs that nothing is happening, but that something greater is being formed beyond your view? It's not easy to believe that when you're in the middle of it, when you're surrounded by what feels like failure and disappointment. But looking back, we often realize that the doors that didn't open were the ones we were never meant to walk through. God sees what we can't. He sees the full picture, the consequences of choices we haven't even made yet, the people we'll meet, the growth we need, the challenges we're not ready for. When he closes a door, it's never out of spite. It's always out of love, protection, and purpose. We just don't always recognize it at the time. We want the shortcut, the answer now, the breakthrough immediately. But God isn't interested in quick fixes. He's interested in deep, lasting transformation. He's more concerned with who you're becoming than how quickly you get there. Think about the moments in your life when things didn't go your way. Maybe there was a job you thought was perfect and you were heartbroken when it didn't happen. Maybe you had a plan all laid out only to watch it fall apart. But then something else came along, something you hadn't expected, a better opportunity, a healthier environment, a chance to do something more meaningful. And you realized later that if that original door had opened, you wouldn't be where you are now. That's not coincidence. That's God's redirection. Redirection doesn't always feel kind in the moment. It often feels like being lost or forgotten, but sometimes it's exactly what we need. Because if God allowed every door to open, we'd walk straight into things that would damage us. We'd settle for less than we deserve. We'd move too fast into places we weren't prepared for. God's no is just as powerful and loving as his yes. It's not the end, it's a turn, a divine pivot to something better. When we start to view closed doors through that lens, everything shifts. We stop seeing rejection as defeat and start seeing it as protection. We stop asking, why me, and start asking, what now, God? We open ourselves up to possibilities we never considered because we trust that God's plan is not limited by our preferences or timelines. His plans are bigger than our resumes, our qualifications, or our understanding. He's not just orchestrating your career. He's shaping your character, stretching your faith, and setting you up for the kind of purpose that lasts. Sometimes the job you didn't get was the very thing that would have taken you off course. Sometimes the relationship that ended was the one that would have distracted you from your true calling. Sometimes the delay you're angry about is the exact thing that's saving you from making a long-term mistake. That's how precise and intentional God's redirections are. He doesn't just want you to have any job. He wants you in the right place at the right time, doing work that aligns with your gifts and brings him glory. You may not understand the reasons now. You may never fully understand them in this lifetime. But faith means trusting that the one who sees all is guiding you even when nothing makes sense. Faith means believing that your unanswered prayers are not ignored, they're rerouted. Every time something doesn't work out, it's not a dead end. It's a sign that God is doing something different, something deeper. So the next time a door closes, instead of letting it define your worth, let it redefine your direction. Ask God to show you what he's protecting you from or preparing you for. Trust that he knows you better than you know yourself and that he's not withholding something good, he's reserving something better. The closed door is not a punishment, it's an invitation to trust the path that only God can see and the promise that he's always leading you toward his best. In today's world, it's so easy to tie our identity to our work. From the time we're young, we're asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? As if what we do somehow defines who we are. As if our job title, our income, or our professional achievements are the measure of our worth. It starts early and it never really stops. When we meet someone new, one of the first questions is usually, so what do you do? And in that moment, we feel the pressure to have a good answer, something impressive, something that sounds successful, something that signals we are worth listening to or respecting. But what happens when that title is taken away? What happens when the job ends, when the promotion doesn't come, when the role doesn't align with your dreams? What happens when you're in between jobs or working a position that feels far below your potential? In those moments, it's easy to feel lost. It's easy to start believing the lie that you're not valuable, that you're not successful, that you've failed in some way. The truth, though, is that your worth has never depended on your job. It was never supposed to. In God's eyes, your value is determined long before you ever filled out your first job application, long before your name was printed on a business card or attached to a title. You are valuable because you were created in his image. You are chosen, loved, and known by the creator of the universe. That doesn't change based on what you do for a living, whether you're leading a company or serving coffee, whether you're building a career or figuring out your next step. Your worth remains the same, unchanged, unmoved, secure. God doesn't rank people based on their professions. He doesn't love doctors more than delivery drivers. He doesn't favor CEOs over cashiers. What he looks at is your heart, your faith, your character, your willingness to serve and obey even when the world doesn't applaud you. The world may reward titles, but God rewards faithfulness. And in his kingdom, the first are often last and the last are often first. The most important work may not be the most visible. The greatest impact you make might not come from a title, but from a simple act of kindness or obedience that no one else ever sees. So many people carry the silent burden of shame because they think they should be further along by now. They think they should have a more impressive job, a better salary, a bigger platform. They scroll through social media and see highlight reels of other people's careers and start to feel like they're falling behind. But what if you're exactly where you're supposed to be? What if God has placed you in this season to grow something in you that success could never teach you? What if the work you're doing right now, though it may feel small or insignificant, is the very soil where your next breakthrough is being planted? You are not your job, you are not your productivity, you are not your performance or your paycheck. You are a child of God. That identity cannot be stripped by a layoff, a missed opportunity, or a slow season. When you build your sense of self on the shifting sands of status and success, you will always feel unsteady. But when you build your identity on who God says you are, loved, redeemed, chosen, and purposed, then you can stand firm even when the world shakes around you. It's important to strive for excellence in your work. It's good to want to grow, to dream, to pursue your calling with passion, but don't let your job define you. Let it be an assignment, not your identity. Let it be a place where you serve, not the source of your self-worth. Because jobs can come and go, titles can change, companies can fold, but who you are in Christ is eternal. So if you're in a place where you feel overlooked or underutilized, if you're doing work that the world doesn't celebrate, if you're in transition and feeling uncertain, remember this: your worth is not up for debate. It's not based on your job title, but on the fact that you were created with purpose. You matter because God says you do, not because of what you do, but because of who you are, and that will always be enough. Waiting is never easy. It tests our patience, stretches our faith, and often feels like the most unproductive season of our lives. We live in a world that glorifies constant movement, loud announcements, and overnight success stories. So, when we find ourselves in a place where nothing seems to be happening, no callbacks, no offers, no direction, it's tempting to think we're stuck, falling behind, or being forgotten. But in God's eyes, waiting is never wasted. It's sacred time. It's preparation. Many of us spend so much time trying to position ourselves for success. We polish our resumes, build our network, study the right trends, and work on making ourselves as visible as possible. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be ready, but sometimes we focus so much on the outside, on visibility and positioning, that we forget what truly matters is what's happening on the inside. God is far more concerned with who we are becoming than how we are being seen. This season, this quiet, unseen, often frustrating stretch of time isn't a detour. It's the classroom. It's where the deep work happens. It's where God forms your character, builds your endurance, strengthens your trust, and clears your vision. He's not just preparing a place for you, He's preparing you for that place. And sometimes He'll withhold the opportunity not to punish you, but to make sure you're ready to carry the weight of it. A job may test your skills, but your calling will test your character. You may be qualified on paper, but what about spiritually? Are you humble enough to serve, even when it doesn't benefit you directly? Are you grounded enough in your faith to handle disappointment without walking away from God? Are you strong enough to lead others with integrity, even when no one's watching? These are the things God is working on in the waiting. Think of the people in Scripture who had to wait. David was anointed king as a young boy, but he didn't take the throne until many years later. In the meantime, he was tending sheep, hiding in caves, and serving in places that seemed far beneath the crown he'd been promised. But that season wasn't wasted. It shaped him. It taught him dependence, humility, and resilience. Joseph had dreams of greatness, but was sold into slavery, thrown into prison, and forgotten for years. Yet every low point was preparing him for the role he would one day play. not just as a ruler, but as someone who would carry God's wisdom in a place of influence. The same principle applies to us. If we rush ahead before we're ready, we risk sabotaging the very thing we've prayed for. But when we submit to the process, when we embrace the quiet work of preparation, we grow into the kind of person who can not only enter the door when it opens, but stay there and thrive once we're inside. So what does preparation look like in this season? It might mean developing discipline, waking up early, managing your time well, staying committed to excellence even when no one is watching. It might mean growing your faith, spending time in prayer, in Scripture, learning to hear God's voice more clearly. It might mean working on your emotional and mental health, healing from past wounds, letting go of bitterness, learning how to communicate with grace and strength. It's what might mean serving others, volunteering, mentoring, being faithful in the small things that seem insignificant but carry eternal value. Every act of obedience, every quiet step of growth is building something in you. You may not see the fruit yet, but the roots are going deep. When the time comes and the opportunity finally appears, you won't just walk into it hoping you're ready. You'll walk in with confidence, knowing that God has shaped you for this moment. You won't have to scramble to catch up. You'll already be in step with where God is leading. So don't despise this season. Don't rush through it or dismiss it as unimportant. You are not being overlooked. You are being refined. Trust that the God who sees the end from the beginning is using this time to equip you in ways you can't yet understand. The door will open, the opportunity will come, but when it does, make sure you're not just positioned to be seen. Make sure you're prepared to carry the weight of your calling with grace, humility, and faith. In a world that constantly praises hustle and action, stillness can feel uncomfortable, even wrong. We've been conditioned to believe that if we're not moving, we're failing. That if we're not making something happen, we must not care enough or believe enough. But faith was never meant to be measured by how busy we are. Faith isn't just about doing more. Sometimes the truest expression of faith is knowing when to stop, be still, and wait on God. Stillness requires strength. It takes courage to quiet the noise around you and trust that God is still working even when you're not. It takes maturity to resist the pressure to act just for the sake of action. Sometimes we rush ahead trying to fix things, trying to create our own outcomes because we're afraid that if we don't move, we'll miss out. But in trying to control everything, we often end up getting in the way of what God is trying to do. God's deepest work in us rarely happens in the chaos. It's in the quiet, in the stillness, in those moments of silence where there's no obvious progress that He begins to shape our hearts. Those are the times when we learn to listen, not just with our ears, but with our spirit, not for what we want to hear, but for what we need to hear. And sometimes God speaks the loudest in silence, not because He has nothing to say, but because He wants to teach us how to truly listen. Think about Moses. Before he led the Israelites out of Egypt, he spent 40 years in the wilderness, shepherding sheep far removed from the noise of Pharaoh's palace. That stillness prepared him to hear God through a burning bush. It was in that quiet, lonely place where he learned how to recognize God's voice. Or consider Elijah, the prophet who expected to hear God in the wind, the earthquake, or the fire, but instead God spoke in a gentle whisper. That whisper required stillness to be heard. It required Elijah to stop, to lean in, to listen. In our own lives, we often miss what God is saying because we're too busy doing. We keep ourselves distracted, scrolling, planning, running, overthinking, when what we really need is to sit at His feet and be present. Stillness doesn't mean we stop caring or give up. It means we surrender. It means we choose to believe that God's hands are more capable than ours, that His wisdom is higher than ours, and that His timing is better than ours. Stillness teaches us dependence. When we stop trying to make everything happen on our own, we realize just how much we need God. We realize that our plans, no matter how good they look, mean nothing without His guidance. We learn that peace doesn't come from checking off every task on our to-do list, but from knowing we are exactly where God wants us to be. even if it's a place of waiting. And make no mistake, stillness is not inactivity. It's not laziness or apathy. It's an intentional choice to trust. It's active listening, it's prayer, it's worship, it's seeking God with your whole heart and giving him space to respond. It's saying, God, I don't know what's next, but I trust you. I'm not going to panic. I'm going to pause. I'm not going to push forward blindly. I'm going to wait for your direction. That kind of faith changes everything. It recenters us. It grounds us. It breaks our dependence on results and builds our dependence on relationship. Because what God wants most is not just to lead us somewhere, it's to be with us in the process. And we can't experience his presence fully when we're always rushing ahead. Sometimes the breakthrough comes not after we take the next step, but after we stop and wait. Sometimes the answer comes not after we've done everything possible, but when we finally stop doing and simply say, "Speak, Lord, your servant is listening." So if you're in a season where nothing seems to be moving, where the silence is louder than any answer, don't lose heart. Be still. Let God meet you in the quiet. Let him speak into your restlessness. Let him remind you that he is still in control, even when your hands are empty. The kind of faith that moves mountains isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet confidence in God's plan. Sometimes it's the ability to stand still and know that he is God. There's a deep peace that comes with understanding that what's meant for you won't miss you. It goes against the fear-based thinking that we often carry, the belief that we have to fight for everything, chase endlessly, or beg for our place in this world. It's hard to break free from that mindset because society teaches us that opportunities are scarce, and if we don't move fast enough or hustle hard enough, we'll be left behind. But that's not how God operates. His kingdom doesn't run on scarcity, it runs on purpose. And if God has written something into your story, it doesn't matter who doubts you, what obstacles are in your way, or how long it takes. When it's time, it will come because it's already yours. The job, the calling, the opportunity. It's not random. It's not something you earn by being the loudest voice in the room or the most connected person in the crowd. It's something God designed for you with intention. He crafted it in alignment with your gifts, your journey, your personality, and your purpose. You don't have to manipulate the situation to make it happen. You don't have to twist yourself into something you're not to be chosen. The position he has for you isn't a competition, it's a calling. And yes, the wait can be long, the silence can feel heavy. Watching others step into their breakthrough while you're still standing in the hallway can stir up doubt, comparison, and even anger. You might wonder if God forgot you or if you somehow missed your moment. But rest assured, what God has for you, no one else can take. You don't have to be the most popular, the most polished, or the most perfect. You just have to be faithful. You just have to keep showing up. Keep trusting and keep walking in obedience, even when the results aren't immediate. There's a difference between striving and preparing. Striving is when you're working out of fear, desperation, or insecurity. Preparation is when you're walking in faith, trusting that the door will open when you're ready for it. When you know that what's meant for you is already on its way, you no longer have to live with anxiety in your chest or pressure in your mind. You can breathe, you can live, you can be present, you can focus on becoming the kind of person who's ready for the opportunity, not just the kind of person trying to chase it. God's timing isn't random either. Sometimes he delays the door not because the opportunity isn't ready, but because you're not. There are lessons he still wants to teach you, strength he wants to build in you, and parts of your heart he wants to heal. Because when you step into what he's prepared, you won't just need talent, you'll need wisdom, humility, and spiritual maturity. You'll need peace that doesn't depend on your performance. That kind of preparation takes time, and that's okay. Don't panic if you feel like nothing's moving. Don't assume God is silent just because things are quiet. He might be preparing something you can't yet see. Or he might be waiting for you to stop striving and start trusting. Either way, the outcome is already written in his hands, and if he's written it for you, then nothing can cancel it. Not the opinions of others, not the delays, not even your own mistakes. The truth is, you don't have to force open a door God has already marked with your name. You don't have to beg to be seen by the one who formed you. And you don't have to compete for something that's already been set apart for you. When the right